Through my dreams and my old team ran too far. Posted up with the damn.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Angelo's World. Welcome or welcome back to my world. Today we're going to be reacting to the final hours of Tupac Shakur. Let's see what his final hours was like, y'all. Smash that like button and let's get straight to it, man.
I'm out on one right now. I got a couple guys shot. I need medical ASAP.
Yeah, okay. They're moving some suspects. We don't know what's going on. Hopefully, Tupac Shakur is not. Where is Tupac?
Retired homicide detective Phil Ramos says soon after the shots were fired, Las Vegas police zeroed in on Tupac's potential killer, a man named Orlando Anderson. Ramos says the rapper had beat Anderson up that very night.
I've been thinking, maybe I'm an scapegoat or something. I just want to let everybody know, what I'm saying? I didn't do it.
So who did it?
September 6, 1996. No one would ever assume the next 24 hours would change the entire world and the future of hip-hop forever. Tupac Amaru Shakur, one of the most prolific artists to emerge around that era, was furthering his reign and empire through music and his ability to impact and lead the minds of those that heard his music and ideology.
6 Flags' biggest sale of the year is finally here. Save up to 70% off season passes, single-day tickets, and more. With a season pass, you'll get access to Hurricane Harbor and our most popular events, like Fright Fest, Oktoberfest, and more.
On that night, on September 6, 1996, Tupac was at the Lacey Street studio in Los Angeles, California, filming his music video for his song, Toss It Up. They wrapped up filming around 11 p.m. that night and headed back to rest their heads as the following day, they were scheduled to be off to Las Vegas for numerous reasons. One, legendary boxer Mike Tyson, a close friend of Tupac, was having a heavyweight bout versus Bruce Sheldon at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. And weeks prior, he promised to go with Suge. Even though something was off, Tupac was a man of his word and wasn't going to break his promise to his friend. His then fiancée and daughter of the iconic Quincy Jones, Kidada Jones, recalls Tupac's eerie feeling that day. As per her recollection, Tupac told her he didn't.
This is just like the video y'all gonna see in December. His intuition was telling him not to go. That was his intuition. Just like I said, the video y'all gonna see in December. Aaliyah, on the way back from filming her music video, didn't want to get on that plane. Her intuition was telling her not to get on that plane.
Want to go to Vegas, but did it out of keeping his word. She would accompany Tupac, but not to the boxing match, as Tupac didn't want her around that environment. Maybe it was as a precaution, due to the feeling he had. At that precaution, if so, would turn out to be right. That second reason for his trip to Las Vegas was to celebrate the birthday of his business partner, Tracy Robinson. Amid planning to go to Vegas, Tupac's mind was uneasy. Behind the scenes, there were tensions brewing and family issues with his crew of affiliates, which he labeled the Outlaws, needed to be tended to. Tupac wanted to go to California to ensure matters were dealt with, but he was persuaded to upkeep his obligations to the Vegas trip. Unfortunately, that decision would be his undoing. September 7th, 1996. The day arrived where Las Vegas was the destination. Even packing felt filled with bad energy from Tupac. Tupac had a signature bulletproof vest he'd grown accustomed to wearing, given his lifestyle and feuds. But his fiancée recalls Tupac even declining to pack that attire, as if he knew Vegas would be his final moments. On the drive to Las Vegas, certain things stood out along the way. Tupac would stop at a gas station convenience store and buy only magazines about guns, which he was obsessed with until they checked into the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Vegas Strip. Kadada Jones' exact words at the site of the pyramid-shaped structure were, "God," she said. "It's so evil." It seemed all the signs were adding up, and Tupac's life would soon be subtracted from the equation. Still, it was Las Vegas, and nothing gets better than Las Vegas nights. At around 7:51 p.m., along with Suge and his entourage, Tupac made his way to the MGM Grand Garden Arena, where Mike Tyson was scheduled to fight. Mike Tyson dominated the fight, ending the match in the first round with a knockout. Tupac was ecstatic to see his friend win the fight and rushed down to greet Mike Tyson as he exited the ring. The two held in an embrace in celebration, and it was a smile, not knowing that tears would be pouring that same night. Minutes later, the incident that sparked Tupac's murder happened. In the lobby of the MGM Grand Hotel, footage captured a beatdown by Tupac, Suge Knight, and their entourage on a rival gang member known as Orlando Anderson. While one fight ended in the ring, another took place in the lobby. Anderson was left with a dislocated shoulder and had to be hospitalized.
What I didn't realize is that he actually got so hurt that he had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So, was his shoulder up or something like that?
Yeah, shoulder. Then we kicked his shoulder.
So was it like dislocated? Or?
Dislocated, yeah.
Oh, okay, so his shoulder got dislocated.
Yeah.
And he went to the hospital in Vegas.
Yeah.
And what did they do? They put it back into socket?
They put a sling on his arm.
After Tupac and his entourage beat down Orlando, the altercation between Tupac and Orlando was no free coincidence. At that time, there was a number of feuds that revolved around Tupac, Suge Knight's record label to which Tupac was signed. Two notable ones were between Suge Knight and Sean Puff Daddy Combs, which had West Coast artist Tupac facing off against Bad Boy's East Coast artist, Biggie Smalls. While Tupac had to deal with the consequences of that feud, being a part of Death Row Records also extended a gang feud to his doorstep. Suge Knight was a well-respected Mob Piru member and was locked in a battle with rival set Southside Compton Crips. That was ignition to what occurred in the MGM Grand between Tupac and Orlando Anderson. Because as reports state, Orlando and his affiliates allegedly apprehended one of Suge Knight's affiliates and stole his signature Death Row chain. What's more is that it also alleged Orlando was bold and brazen about his actions as he was wearing it at the MGM Grand the night he was beaten. According to his close childhood friend and Nutty Block Compton Crip member BG Knockout,
Damn. They was cool, bruh. I mean, I get it, it's LA, but if you guys don't know, like, that was Eazy-E's, like, homie type shit. He was with Eazy-E all the time. Damn.
this altercation was the consequence of his actions due to the lasting feud between the Mob Pirus and Southside Compton Crips. In fact, about a year prior, Orlando Anderson, aka Baby Lane, nearly lost his life in the feud when he was shot in both kneecaps with an AK-47, which required him to learn how to walk again. So there was Tupac and his entourage fleeing the scene of the altercation with Orlando Anderson. At that point, he returns to his hotel where he told Kadada Jones he got into a fight and specifically informed her, "Something's up. You stay here." At that moment, he changed his attire into a basketball jersey and some baggy sweats before meeting with Suge in the lobby and heading out. What's even more notable in this moment is that Tupac was told by his associates he should wear his bulletproof vest and that he normally does, but he replied, "It's hot, so there's no need to bring it." Another uncharacteristic thing that felt off about him that night. The footage captured in Las Vegas was the last video footage caught with the rapper and Suge Knight after he changed and left. Surrounded by women, no one would think the next events were about to happen, but Tupac might have known his time was coming to an end. 11 p.m. struck.
Someone sits down next to you in a 5-hour flight. Your worst nightmare is that they're wearing
Axe body spray.
Oh, Axe.
Tupac and Suge Knight would leave from Suge's house to make their way to Suge's club, Club 662, for a party hosted by Suge Knight. The two would have frequented the club before on different occasions as a spot in Las Vegas they enjoy. This time, however, the pair would never make it to the venue, and one never made it to see anything ever again. Leaving Suge Knight's mansion, Tupac had his trusted bodyguard, Frank Alexander, with him. Only he made a decision when his bodyguard was about to enter into the backseat of Suge's black BMW 750IL. As Frank opened the door, Tupac instead told him to drive the Lexus with his crew, the Outlaws, as they planned on consuming a hefty amount of alcohol at the party, and he'd be the designated driver. The last photo of Tupac's night became an iconic snapshot. It was taken by a 29-year-old UCLA film school student named Leonard Jefferson, who recognized the rapper at a stoplight along the strip. The next stoplight would be where his life would be placed on a timer. Around that same time, Orlando Anderson and his gang-affiliated Uncle Dwayne Davis, aka Keefy D, along with 2 other affiliates, were on the prowl looking for Tupac for retaliation due to the altercation earlier. They were in a white Cadillac when they just coincidentally saw Tupac along the strip, hanging out the vehicle having a grand time on his way to Club 662. They made a U-turn and began trailing behind Tupac and his entourage. Tupac and Suge came to a stop at a red light. A vehicle with 2 females pulled beside them to the left of Tupac and sparked a conversation that led to invitations with them to Club 662. In front of Tupac and Suge were 2 cars, and behind them was his bodyguard. Right after, around 11:17 p.m., the white Cadillac with Orlando pulled up to the right of Tupac, boxing them in, and a hand emerged holding a firearm. Orlando opened fire on the vehicle. Suge claims to have tried to shield Tupac as Tupac noticed the gun and began climbing into the back seat. Sadly, it was to no avail. Suge was grazed in the head and hitting Tupac 4 times, with 1 bullet hitting his pinky finger and piercing through his hand. Another hit his thigh bone, ricocheted into his abdomen, and floating into his pelvis. And another punctured his chest and being lodged into his lungs. Immediately after, Suge Knight pulled off racing towards the hospital to try to save Tupac's life. Orlando in the white Cadillac went the other direction, while Frank Alexander, the bodyguard, followed Suge Knight. Through the rush, Suge recalled that Tupac was still making jokes and keeping it together until he exhaled and echoed the chilling words, "I don't think I'm gonna make it this time." Their vehicle came to a stop at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip at Las Vegas Boulevard in Harmon. Cops would surround the scene, unsure of the situation, and tried to get things under control. Suge, concerned for Tupac's life, kept shouting at officers to help his friend. One of the first responders recalled prying open the door to find Tupac still alive, slumped over.
I pulled the door open, and when I pulled it open, the guy sitting in the passenger seat, who turns out later to be Tupac, he kind of slumped out, came out with the door. So he's in the car, he's leaning against the door, and as I open the door, he kind of spills out.
Suge was finally subdued to be checked out, but was still only concerned about Tupac.
That there was another guy that was shot in the head. Jim and I believe they walked him over to the ambulance. He got in, and it ended up being Suge Knight who was grazed on the head.
He wanted us to make sure that we took care of Tupac before him.
According to him, Tupac's last words at the scene were "F you."
And I looked at him once again. I said, "What happened? Who did this? Who shot you?" And now he's looking at me, so we're looking at each other in the eyes. And this is kind of the first time he's even acknowledging my presence. And he looked at me, and I could tell he was getting the breath together to tell me. And he looked me right in the eyes, and we looked at each other, and he said, "F you." And he said it just like that.
Tupac detested the police due to how they treated minorities and blacks, and was adamant about how he felt in his music and voice. The strip was in chaos. Police and paramedics streaming past. Yellow tape cornered all around. Just straight madness as the news began to spread of Tupac's shooting. Press conferences and news began circulating of the tragedy that occurred. Tupac was rushed to the University Medical Center in Las Vegas in critical condition. At Club 662, where his friends, like business partner Gobi Rahimi, are awaiting his arrival, news comes that Tupac had been shot, prompting them to rush to the hospital. Tupac's right lung was removed to try to stop the bleeding. He was placed on ventilators and induced into a coma to try to save his life. With Tupac still fighting for his life, his friends and family began receiving threats from rivals that they were going to return and finish the job. So they took it upon themselves to stand watch, as for some reason, security wasn't stationed. September 13th, Tupac's aunt, Gloria Cox, and his mother, Afeni Shakur, visited the hospital to be given the news that Tupac's kidneys were failing and they had to resuscitate him 3 times. In that moment, at around 4:03 p.m., his mother made the call to pull the plug and let her son find peace. Tupac Shakur was officially pronounced deceased. Tupac was a prominent figure. His movement was monumental. It was no surprise law enforcement was worried about a war breaking out due to his passing. And sure enough, it came swift, resulting in many casualties.
Because I told you it was already, the beef was going on before that.
Right, but this right here
kind of sparked it up because, Suge got money. They over there playing with street money. So, yeah, it sparked up.
How many people do you think right after that? If you were to guess.
If I were to guess, I'm going to say conservatively, maybe 7 people.
From both sides?
Yeah.
Altogether.
October 2nd, 1996. Orlando Anderson was finally arrested as the main suspect in the case of Tupac Shakur, but the Las Vegas officers state there wasn't enough evidence and Orlando was released. By all accounts, it appeared someone was blocking the case from being solved, even when everything they had pointed to Orlando being the shooter. An eyewitness at the scene who was Tupac's close friend, who agreed to testify, was later murdered, running the case cold. Theories would begin circulating about who was responsible for the shooting, and many, including Tupac's bodyguard, Frank Alexander, became suspicious of Suge Knight. Suge was on the record stating he's not assisting with the case, and that's for investigators to find out who the killer is, not for him to answer that question. That could have been easily passed up to the street code and the gang culture he lived. But Frank Alexander started looking into things himself and revealed some chilling details. Tupac at the time was not on good terms with Suge Knight. He wanted out of his contract with Death Row and was not planning to renew his contract when it ended, as there was dispute over money and nothing Tupac owned being in his name. In fact, not long before he went to Vegas, it turned out one of the reasons he was so adamant about not going is that he had a huge fight with Suge and reportedly told one of his bodyguards prior he's a dead man walking. Law enforcement would also consider Suge Knight as the mastermind behind the assassination, but he was later.
Bro, what? That's crazy, bro.
They're excluded as a suspect due to lack of evidence. Frank Alexander ultimately believed Tupac was set up, and Suge Knight may not be as innocent as he portrayed in the entire incident. The case seemed to be forever buried. That's until Orlando's uncle, Effe D, went on record years later, agreeing to testify on the murder to give him immunity in the case compiled against him. In that interview, He broke down what happened and stated that Orlando Anderson was in fact the one who pulled the trigger. But just as hope came, hope went. Because by the time Keefe D exposed Orlando, he had already lost his life in the prior shooting.
He looks right at you?
Yeah, he looked at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then, Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
in
of
the back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside of their car?
I seen a bullet going sugar.
So Orlando shot across Dre?
He leaned over on the window, we rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They was drove on my side, I was popped. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
What allegedly happened was Orlando was riding through Compton.
My bad, y'all. I'm sick of these. I hate living on this main fucking street, bro.
Saw someone who owed him money.
Who was it?
Let me turn the volume up for these last, because I can't. My arms.
Drove on my side, I was popped. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
What allegedly happened was Orlando was riding through Compton and saw someone who owed him money and confronted the person. Tempers heightened and the altercation escalated into a shootout, which Orlando never walked away from. That death was memorialized into history when Tupac's rival Biggie Smalls also lost his life to the gun on March 9th, 1997, less than a year later.
But tonight, it's only what could have been. Los Angeles police are investigating the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls. He was gunned down early today. The rap star, whose real name is Christopher Wallace, had just left a Soul Train Awards party and was sitting in his car when a vehicle drove by and someone opened fire.
Hip-hop was forever changed by the bloodshed of that era. Today, Tupac's music and legacy still lives on. And from the magnitude of it, it won't ever die. Rest in peace, Tupac Shakur.
Man, Tupac and Biggie should still be alive, bro. I'm not even. And then we found out, like they said, Orlando Brown got shot in 1998. Or not Orlando, whatever the fuck, Orlando Anderson. Orlando Brown. Orlando Anderson got shot in 1998. It's fucking crazy, bro. Like, Tupac and Biggie should still be here. We still don't know who shot Biggie. Man, it's some shit, bro. But they saying that Tupac's still alive. Just off, out of sight. Y'all let me know what y'all think. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button. Comment down below what other videos you guys would like to see. And smash that subscribe button and turn on that post notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos. And while you at it, go check out my very last video, Prince performing at the Super Bowl in 2007. It's gonna be right here, so go check that out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace.